Alright guys, feeling right back more medium. Probably last episode for today. What are we doing? Make your way through the forest. Okay. Yeah, I might as well listen to podcasts.
Really tough spot, so I just want Chrissy to know she did a good job.
Yeah, I will give massive kudos to Chrissy because I think her like entire thesis of her opening statement I think was great in that you spoke about that abortion and that like social game is really king, I think, which is con in English, for those of you that don't know, about like this idea of at the end of the day, no matter what the rubric for a juror is, they want to vote for someone who you can like go to sleep at night saying, I feel okay with this person winning the season, and whatever that means for you. I think for a lot of people that translates to likability, but I think what really helps swallow that pill is like the idea of it being actionable likability, right? This idea of, okay, I have this social game, I have these relationships, how did I use that to my advantage, right? It's not just, okay, everybody liked me and so they took me to the end. It's, okay, I had these relationships and I used that to do this. That was what Michelle Fitzgerald did so well in Go Wrong in particular. And I love Chrissy trying to make it actionable in a bit of a way. I love her starting off with just, if you think I left my babies with no idea of what I was doing, you are sorely mistaken. Like a little Christy-esque in that way, right? Pulling off the mask a smidge and being like, look at you, dumb people thought I was one thing, but I'm actually another thing. And I think, she did a good job of vocalizing some very deliberate things that she did of like, okay, Croc went home at Ben's hand, and so I needed to take my revenge. And then like even though, Josh is going to kind of dress this down, like I finally ended up making my move here, being able to do things in a very deliberate way, as opposed to trying to really buck that perception, as tough as it may be, of like, I just sat around and did nothing. She tried to provide that documentation. I will say, as impressive as it is, I don't necessarily need or love the stat of like, I didn't get any votes between days 5 and 41, because that's the only
41 is also not true. Like, there was actually no tribal council on day 41. I just checked the Wikipedia page. I think it was the Josh vote, right? It was day 46.
Yeah, so she's almost discrediting herself in that way. But I think, to me, that could be something, that's a metric that could easily be used against you, right? Of like, well, nobody voted for you because nobody wanted to get rid of you because you weren't a threat.
I disagree with that. Well, I just think that like it's like having played the two versions of that game, the first game where my name came up literally every tribal council, and the second time where my name did not come out for a very, very long time. It takes so much more work to keep your name out of people's mouths. So like, I think when she said that, I was like, yes, Chrissy, that's a great point. Hit that bell, ring that bell. So, but I guess maybe that just speaks to what the point was earlier, right? That every person is looking for something different. You and I look at that one stat, view it very differently.
Well, I think that not getting votes through the pre-merge and through like halfway through the merge, that's good. But then even last week we're trying to pass out, like I gave 2 points to Chrissy for, not getting votes, and I thought being like an asset to people in that they didn't want to vote for her, and that's the way that the Purgatory could have at least stayed a little bit together, but they don't want to vote for Chrissy. So it's hard to like pass out that credit, or is it a bad thing? Like when you get very, very close to the end, I think that becomes an insult. Like it's a good thing for Mark's game that people were looking to take him out, and that people were looking to take out Josh, because it shows like people didn't want to sit next to them, and that's like they were a threat. I think, before those last few rounds, for sure, you don't want to vote, but at the end, when everyone's happy to go to the end with you, that does mean that something in the negative. You weren't getting votes, that was good, but like, talk to me in the final 6, final 5. With Chrissy's speech, I liked that it was so individual, and she's calling out, like, her game is a game of people, so to call out each person what they mean to her, and to say, like, I want to take a bit of all of you, that's a Chrissy game. I think she spoke to that with a lot of awareness. But to speak to what we were saying before about, like, should Chrissy have just given it to Josh, or does anyone kind of have a shot? I think what I'm thinking about this is, think about every single time when someone you thought couldn't win won. It's when you said it about Chrissy that kind of crystallized for me. That you have a choice that you're coming in and thinking about all of the people, or both people there next.
Okay.
negatively. And it's more likely in a final two because there's, you know, fewer people to have feelings about. So when it's Chrissy and Lee, like, you can build up from that when people are feeling badly about both people. And like build up into a win when it's Tom and John, when it was Smash and Nicole. People can build up from that. But I think what's really hard is when the jury comes in thinking of someone positively, Adam, what would have been David, what would have been Josh or Mark, that becomes impossible for that person to build up to the level where they're going to get to that like base level of positivity that the jury comes in with. And that's why we're saying with Lil, she maybe could have been in fair play because it would have been two people they felt negatively about, and then like how do you pitch to that? So I think Chrissy's working against that where she's just never going to hit that baseline.
Let's see what we got here.
Yeah.
Yummy.
And apparently it was way worse than we saw. So it's really, really hard to say like what they spoke to because we didn't see so much of it. I want to come in here and talk about Josh,
You catch a scent?
who's mad at Chrissy.
Hey,
And I want to defend Josh a little bit here.
Yes.
Talking about things I see with logic versus bad behaviors, about bad humans. But
Anyone
I
in
actually
there?
see the logic and the fairness in this. I mean, look, you don't want them to be so upset or whoever was, you know, being so harsh that Chrissy's crying.
what's wrong, boy? Is someone in there?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Hello?
I wish I could see you again. I miss you so much. Why did I stay? Why did I let it out? They're all dead. Because of me.
What the hell?
And I'm still here. I shouldn't be.
Hey. You alright in there?
You shouldn't be. I can see you. And that means it can see you too.
Francis.
Oh, of course. What else did you expect, Marianne?
Okay.
I think that's him. What is it, boy? Was he your friend? He looks drained. Rotted out from within. Just like those animals I saw earlier. Easy. I'm not done here yet.
I keep forgetting that's the thing too. What was this? No, it's just yeah. Oh, that actually was necessary.
Easy, boy. What is it? Oh, God. It's that thing again. No! Stay!
Francis. And I outgrew. I want nothing fits. Wouldn't you? Special girl.
Stay the fuck away from me!
Let me try you on.
Broken record. Fuck.
Fuck. Okay. Alright. This is cool though. They're going through that.
Did I lose it? Is it gone?
Probably. Is this the ruin? You'd seen in the guide there's an area called the ruins. Yeah, we're like kind of reaching the end game, I think. I think they were like kind of starting the final act around this point. What?
What? Who's there?
You promise. No risky stuff, eh?
This isn't real. It can't be. Jack?
Who's Jack again? Is that her father figure?
Later at all, and I think the hope is that, you know, even if moves have been made against you, you still don't like react with that really negative emotion. But in saying that, he did lose $500,000 yesterday, and it's a hard road, and he's not the first hero to feel upset about things. But I actually like the main criticism that people had about it was like, but you also voted for Chrissy. How can you be mad? And that she voted for you, and also that he feels fine with Mark. And I feel like there's so much logic to his feelings on this that he ends up vocalizing at Jury Villa and then he said on social media. Chrissy flipped first to me. Like, she flipped at the Mark vote against him. We talked about it similar to the Cock vote. And she also was talking about it in the challenge. Like, she opened the door and he says that he got the hint. And then compared to Mark, like, people have been making that gender thing. And there are definitely gendered parts of this jury, as we've spoken about. But in this instance, he voted out Sam. So, like, if Mark's flipping against him, like, he's not going to be mad about that compared to Chrissy doing it and doing it earlier and before him. Like, he made the first move against Mark. Mark has been reacting, playing his own game within that. And Chrissy made the first move against him. So, while she's entitled to make that move, and if anything, should have made that move earlier and voted him out of the final five, he is entitled to be upset about it. As superfans and strategists, we often hope they won't be. We never, ever want for people to be like so negatively upset about it in a way that maybe like affected Chrissy really badly. But I do think that you can't really call out the hypocrisy on that because I don't see them voting against each other as flipping at the same time because they were like steps that got there, and I think Chrissy's the one who was
I agree. I wish that had been sketched out more at the beginning of the
fair. Like, I feel like we need to see her saying head versus heart. We see her voting for Mark, and he's like saying he's not to.
Almost the fallen comrades being like, look at our journey so far. I would have loved to see at least a little bit of recovering from tribal council. Yeah, because I think that Josh certainly has feelings about it. Like, I think where the discrepancy is coming from is that a lot of people just don't realize that, like, Josh took Chrissy voting against Mark in Final Five.
But he does say it, Mike. Like, he said, I feel like he made that move earlier and voted him out at the Final Five. He is entitled to be upset about it. As superfans and strategists, we often hope they won't be. We never, ever want for people to be like so negatively upset about it in a way that maybe like affected Chrissy really badly. But I do think that you can't really call out the hypocrisy on that because I don't see them voting against each other as flipping at the same time because they were like steps that got there, and I think Chrissy's the one who opened the door on the flip.
I agree. Yes, I wish that had been sketched out more at the beginning of the
fair. Like, I feel like we need to see her saying head versus heart. We see her voting against Mark, and he's like saying he's begging her not to.
I also disagree.
Yeah, they started the episode by just doing, like, almost the fallen comrades and being like, look at our journey so far. I would have loved to see at least a little bit of recovering
after
from
the
tribal council.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that
Yeah,
Josh certainly has
definitely.
feelings about it. Like,
Wonder if it
I
still
think
works.
where the discrepancy is coming from is that
Of course
a
it
lot of
doesn't.
people just don't
I think
realize
it's out
that,
of
like,
gas.
Josh
Locked
took
down
Chrissy
tight.
voting against Mark in Final
But he
Five.
does say it, Mike. Like, he says it to Ma when he's like, we should vote against Chrissy. She voted against you last night, and she was a huge detriment to my game. Like, obviously, he needs to say that in the pitch. But, like, he says it on the show. I just think that when we see two names come out against each other, and we're also so poised to dislike some of these people, and for some of the other things that are very real, and some of the gender gaps to be real, we extrapolated to this. Whereas, like, I think this is very fair. And I think he vocalized it on the show. I think it maybe was harder to see and more could have been given. I definitely wanted to come back from that tribal council, that epic tribal council where so much happened, and they still are like, let's do the formula of them telling us 100 things we've heard before. And did you know that Josh is a pilot? Rather than coming back from that tribal council, Chrissy has flipped on Josh and then flipped back. Like, so many things have happened. I would have loved to see that, but I still think it was there, and then obviously gets, magnified even more on what he says in Jury Villa and what's been said on social media.
But can I just say, like, I tweeted that, like, when Josh says in his question, he's like, Chrissy, why did you vote for me, blah, 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 and then he goes and speaks to Mark about blindsiding Chrissy.
Don't
Like,
fail me
that
now.
is very alarming for an audience member to be like, wait, the hypocrisy in what you just said there, and clearly 600 or so people agree with me because they like the tweet, right? But it's me, it's not me saying, how dare he? It's me saying, all right, am I missing something? Surely I'm missing something. And I just don't want to go into the final tribal council missing things. Like, and I know that you said that it's just in that very brief little conversation, but those aren't the conversations. Those conversations that you have between people at camp, those are fake conversations because you're trying to convince people to do something. I want to hear it in confessional so that it makes sense. So that when he goes to tribal council and he doesn't vote in the final tribal, he doesn't vote for his number one ally, I want to feel like that has been kind of like fleshed out. And there was a chance. It happened, and then he still survived one more vote. So there was a whole episode there where they could have jammed something in, and they didn't. So then therefore, they exposed that moment and make it look like he's being a bit of Betty. And even if he's not, and like, I don't agree with you per se, but I kind of do. So like, if there was a bit more explanation in the edit, then that makes more sense. And then I go along for it, and I leave going, now that's why Chrissy didn't get his vote, and that's why Mark plays out in the shutout. But instead, it's diluted down to, Mark was a really good game player, yay! And it's like, it's more nuanced than that.
I think that Josh is entitled to vote for Mark, even if he isn't.
Of course he is. Yeah,
I really, really want to
of course he is.
like just voting for Mark
He's
is
entitled to
playing
vote for
charisma.
whoever.
Yeah, and I don't think that a Mark vote is necessarily an anti-Chrissy vote from Josh. I know that that's the way
I
it
don't
comes
think-
across in the question. I think it's a fair vote. I think also what's hard about this is that Chrissy even said in the exit, like, I could sense he change. She says that in Final Tribal Council, like, I could sense he change.
Right.
But then she's
That
also
was the
talking
first
in
time
the
we saw
challenge
tragedy.
about, like, it's from the phone call. So which one is it? Because he only flips after she's saying the stuff about the phone call, after she's already voted against Mark. So in that way, he's the reactor. Now, if you were to ask her and she's really saying, okay, well, it was about the fact that I was reading him, then it sounds like she's the reactor. At the very least, it's Chrissy's indecisiveness and the way that she'll kind of show her game on her face that makes Josh at least extremely worried, if not like rightly worried that she's going to flip on him. So I think that's the door opening, and I think like that's what's fair about it. But I think that if you were to ask them both, there'd still be some contention about like who really like flipped on each other first. But I back Josh in that. I actually do.
I think we all do, actually. I think you did a good job of vocalizing, like, yes, Chrissy was the one to at least express doubts for the very first time the entire game of, like, my interests are not aligning with yours. I'm going to buck against this Final 3 plan that we've had since, like, day 2. I think where the issue is, where, surprise, surprise, they could have done better, I think, is making it bigger than, like, a one-line exchange. And really, again, this could have been something that would have been helped by building up this entire Josh-Chrissy relationship. If this truly is a huge betrayal that causes Josh to, like, not necessarily completely vote against Chrissy, but at least be more closed-minded about voting for her and instead voting for Mark. Like, there could have been some more stuff that it could, but I completely agree with you that I think, I think that some anger against Josh in this manner is not necessarily warranted. I think he does have a right to feel this way given their relationship and the fact that he can definitely perceive, and correctly so, considering that, again, she voted again, not with him on that first vote, and if Mark gets voted out there, I do not think she's necessarily going to, you know, swing over to the other side and force a tie with Josh in the final four.
Yeah, he's saying that. He's like, if you do this, like, I'm done. Like, I work, I work, and she makes a choice to do that. That's a strong possibility, so that's why he feels upset about it. Yeah, I mean, there's a longest final tribal council. I feel like for Mark, he did a lot of good stuff here, I think, as well. I like that he and Chrissy both spoke about like how the phone call really like, you know, changed them and that emotion with Josh, where that's not true for Mark at all. Like, Mark brought Josh to be sacrificed. Like, that's what I love about it, is that he's not voting with Josh. Like, he betrayed Josh before, but it was unknowable to Josh. Like, he betrayed Josh when he brought him through as an act of sacrifice, which is something I really love about Mark's gameplay this week, and this is why this week was like my favorite, you know, individual week that he had in the show. So I think a lot of that was good. Obviously, Mark does speak to a lot of examples. He also, you know, kind of talks about the jury, what friends that they were, which, you know, probably like there's a lot of evils going on the jury. You're talking about how he like physically made himself seem smaller, like how he was like such a big threat and how he mitigated that. And even I, watching it, was like, oh yeah, like thinking about it, I'd kind of forgotten because we'd gone into the dynamics of the show, but we'd forgotten about how we were saying like Mark's probably emerged. Like, that's what we all thought about it. And the fact that he was willing to get past that with, like, basically the physical liability of being such a big aesthetic target from the beginning, and the ways that he was working to mitigate that with making himself seem smaller, but also the relationships, the meat shield strategy, all of the things he was putting in place, dominating and having idols. I think it reminded me, like, oh, maybe I've been underrating parts of that game too, because that is, like, a massive, massive feather in his cap.
One comment that I really loved from Mark was actually like one of the last things that we heard at that final tribal council was his comment about, first off, the whole like body language thing, right? About like the little crocodile sticking his head out of the water, and to be like, we won't remember if he has a big body if we just think about his head sticking up above the surface of the water like a shark. But I actually really did sincerely love his comment to Jesse about how being open is disarming. And that is a really simplistic and complicated thought in the game of Survivor, right? Where, like, your head is constantly running with the ideas of double talk, triple talk, quadruple talk, of, like, did they really mean this to me, or are they just, like, you know, leading me down? For Mark to talk about how someone approached him and was like, hey, are you a threat? And he outright just said, yeah, I'm a threat. That's something that people are not necessarily used to. As much as people like Shay and Chrissy pride their honesty and their you know, sense of self, and I can imagine in general if I asked someone that in a social strategy game and they respond with that frankness, that is something that throws me off a little bit, and at least throws me off. Not necessarily to say, okay, that means he's not a threat anymore now that he thinks he's a threat, but just to reconsider my own thoughts.
No, what the fuck?
You would just assume that any good player, any good threat would just deny. To actually go in the opposite direction, I think is a very subtly, psychologically smart way to approach that idea of somebody approaching you with a finger pointed.
I really enjoyed how Jesse was basically like, Mark, how are you so great? And he was like, brilliant question, Jesse. Like, just that. It's a different tribal council for everyone sitting there.
And then Jordy sandwiches that with like, that was a great answer. Yeah. I really enjoyed that answer.
The Jay sandwich right there. I think that, well, not really, because it's a Mark sandwich, as we know. The Jays would be the bread, but, which I'm not, yeah, I don't even know how it's getting there with the Jay stuff. But I think that, you know, it's a different final tribal council. I feel like we didn't even see it, but like how much harder is it for Chrissy and Shay? Like, I feel like the question for Shay from Michelle, which we talked about, like, you know, give me a number from 1 to 10. That's so hard. And I spoke about this a bit on tribal council, but like, what's the right answer there? It's not 10.
It's so hard.
But it's not 5.
6.
What? No, 6 is so low. No one's voting for a 6, Mike.
No, but I'm trying to think about, like, you want to go with, like, the most neutral answer, and you have to think about, if someone asks you, like, if you get asked any question to rate something on a scale of 1 to 10, what's, like, the maximum number that you could give that would not prompt a reaction from someone?
6 is crazy, Mike.
6 is
crazy.
so
Someone gets
low.
6 in
No
tribe,
one
I'll be
would
like,
be
great, well then I'll
reviewing
give my vote to someone else.
Yeah, like,
no.
6 is way too low. Like, and
The answer is 9.5.
9.5? That's way too high, Nick. Like, that's what they were
it's
we're
not.
trying to, like, Price is Right this. 9.5 is like, so you think you were pretty much perfect? You got voted out, Shay. Like, I put 8 to what became 8.5, and then as I'm saying, 8.7 was not the worst. It's an unwinnable question. Like,
No, alright, I'll bump my answer up. 7.
No, 7's too low. Like it's 8. It is 8.5.
Fine, I'll go 9.3. I'll go 9.3.
Not a point more.
I get 9.3. Do I have a 9.2? Do I have a 7.2?
No.
What am I?
No, we're
No
not
matter
past
what.
9.3.
The issue was changing it. I think it was Shay, because that also, I think, to me, showcases like a bit of indecisiveness as well. And Haley talked about this in talking tribal, this idea of like presenting confidence to yourself, and whether it was following up like Mark's, yeah, by following up Mark's like point-by-point PowerPoint presentation, his TED talk, if you will, about why I deserve your money. She had to follow that up, and her speech was by far the shortest of the three. At least my perception, whether it was from her own sort of sense of self or the way the jury was talking to her, both was like Shay very much felt like she was not going to win compared to those other two. And so I think that it's tough to then all of a sudden come in and be like, okay, I'm very sure of myself. 8, no 8.5, no 8.7. You know, it's something that just doesn't necessarily give across the great image of like, I am sure of myself, I'm sure of the choices that I made, when you're constantly tweaking the metric you made for yourself.
Yeah, well, I think she said 8, and then she saw the jury
Shut
faces
your
and was like,
fucking
"That's
mouth!"
8. I think 95 is the answer because you want to say, I'm confident, I deserve your vote.
twisted
Like, I've
fucking
played a good
bitch.
game. It might not be a game that other people have played, but I've played a good game. And look, there was one or
God,
two
I hope
things
this
that I
is
would
over.
change. But like, I am very confident with my game. I am happy with my game. And if anyone else was sitting here, you would all have tiny little things that, you know, would knock you down from a 10. But I would hope that everyone would be sitting here proud of the game that they played and know that it is a strong one and know that it is worthy of your vote, because everyone's path to the end is different. And that's why I believe I have a 9.5.
I think 9.5 is really high. I could see that on a 9, but she does end up at what we know as 8.7. I don't know. I do think that it's a tough spot to do that for Shay. And I also think like the jury's faces, like that was so manipulated for me. Like,
You mean from an edit?
yeah, like from the edit, like every single time
Yeah.
they show any jury's face, like doing anything, they want you to feel that they're bad, so they show, I don't know how they felt about it, but they show, and then they put in a little bit of silence, and it's a little bit awkward, and everyone's staring, like, if those shots are not taken from that answer, maybe they felt that way about it.
We'll probably at the end after this cutscene.
Sadness, is that you?
Hi, Marianne. Did you find what you were looking for?
I was hoping you could tell me. Sadness. I need you to focus. Think back to as far as you can remember. What do you see?
Is this a game?
I'm afraid not, hon. This is important.
Turn
Listen.
it down.
I know what Richard did. Was he the one keeping you here?
Marianne!
It's okay. I've sent him away. He's gone forever. Lily.
Lily? Lily.
That used to be your name. Do you remember?
Yeah, so we have 5 levels
What's
left.
happened?
It looks like
Father. You remember him?
out of 20. So we're about 3/4 of the way through the game now. Okay. So nearing the end.
She was so pretty.
So I would guess around like 2-3 hours left.
Just like you.
It must be nice to remember you.
The goal was to have this game done by today, but to be honest, I did not expect me to be as busy as I was the last few days.
We were in an accident when I was
I do also have to go into work pretty early tomorrow,
the only one who
so that's also a thing. I'm going to stream on Sunday, so
It was really lonely
I
without
probably won't end up playing more of this until tomorrow night. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
That's life. Ever since my friends. This is a lonely place, Marianne. I I shouldn't be here.
Maybe you'd be better off somewhere else. Maybe I could...
Send me away? No, Marianne. I can't leave. Not yet.
But why? Aren't you afraid of the monster?
I am. But it doesn't need me anymore. It wants you. And when it breaks you, when it puts you on, it'll finally be able to leave this place. But it will never be full. It will never stop killing.
Then let me send you away. So we can both leave. Now that you remember who you are, I can...
No, Marianne. It's not just about me. It's you. You have to remember the dream, the fire, the red house.
Wait! No, what is the red house?
You were there, Marianne. With me. You were always with me. I'm so sorry.
Lily? Shit. Gone. Just when I thought I could finally send her away. Thomas? I really hope you're...
Okay, so... Fuck. 58? Yeah, alright. One's here. We have to. I need to finish, I think, my Australian-inspired player ranking, and then I also got, what was the other video? I need to get my fucking challenge video done, too. So yeah. That'll be it for today. I may or may not record tonight. We'll see. Again, I have to wake up really fucking early tomorrow. So who knows? And then, yeah, probably record tomorrow night. We'll see, though. But yeah, that's it. That is it for the medium for now. Again, like, I think at this point we'll finish it. And we're so fucking close to the end. That's, like, whatever. But definitely not my favorite game. I've played... I think not my least favorite from this year either, but anyway. Thanks for watching.